Welcome to Satanism Theory and Practice. I'm your host, Vampire Rex 33, and today, we're exploring a topic that has played a huge role in shaping public perceptions of Satanism, its representation in pop culture. From horror movies to heavy metal music, Satanism has been a source of fascination, fear, and rebellion. But how accurate are these portrayals? How has pop culture influenced real-world Satanism and vice versa? We'll break it all down in this episode, examining how Satanism went from underground to mainstream in the worlds of film, music, and beyond. To understand Satanism in pop culture, we need to go back to its roots in early 20th century literature and film. The 1960s and 70s saw a rise in interest in the occult and Satanism, largely sparked by works like Rosemary's Baby and The Devil Rides Out. These movies introduced satanic themes to a mainstream audience, often portraying Satanism as a sinister, hidden force corrupting the innocent. While these films were highly successful, they weren't exactly accurate in their depiction of real-world satanic beliefs. They painted Satanism as something inherently evil and destructive, often aligning with Christian narratives of good versus evil. These early portrayals laid the groundwork for how the public would come to view Satanism for decades. But beyond the fear and sensationalism, the countercultural aspects of these depictions started to resonate with those looking for an alternative to traditional religious norms. If horror movies laid the foundation, heavy metal took it to the next level. The 1980s saw an explosion of heavy metal bands adopting satanic imagery as part of their aesthetic. Bands like Black Sabbath, Slayer, and Venom didn't just flirt with satanic symbols, they embraced them. Pentagrams, inverted crosses, and lyrics about Lucifer became staples of the genre. But was it all for shock value, or did these musicians actually believe in the satanic themes they were presenting? The answer varies. Some bands, like Venom, use satanic imagery primarily for its rebellious anti-establishment connotations. It was a way to push back against conservative values, stir controversy, and gain attention. Others, like Black Sabbath's frontman Ozzy Osbourne, claimed their use of satanic imagery wasn't necessarily a statement of belief, but a reflection of societal fears and fascination with the dark side. However, the lines between artistic expression and genuine belief became increasingly blurred. Some musicians and fans started adopting satanic philosophy, particularly the atheistic form popularized by Anton LaVey. Heavy metal's use of satanic imagery wasn't without consequence. By the mid-1980s, the so-called Satanic Panic was in full swing. The media, politicians, and conservative religious groups began to allege that Satanists were involved in everything from ritual abuse to murder. Heavy metal bands became targets in this moral panic, with their lyrics and symbols being cited as evidence of satanic influence on youth culture. This period saw everything from album burnings to lawsuits against musicians, claiming that their music was causing real-world violence and satanic worship. While most of these accusations were unfounded, they had a lasting impact on public perception, making Satanism synonymous with danger and rebellion in the eyes of mainstream culture. The Satanic Panic had the unintended effect of further elevating the profile of Satanism in pop culture. Bands and artists doubled down on their controversial imagery, knowing that the more they were demonized, the more attention they would receive. This era solidified Satanism's place in pop culture, but at a cost. It became increasingly difficult to separate myth from reality. Fast forward to today, and Satanism is more present in pop culture than ever. But now, we're seeing a more nuanced portrayal of Satanism in movies and television. Some shows have embraced satanic themes, but they present them in a way that's less about horror and more about complexity, empowerment, and moral ambiguity. In others, the devil himself is portrayed as a sympathetic, almost heroic figure, while explores the tension between tradition and personal autonomy in a satanic-leaning witch coven. These portrayals, while still fantastical, move away from the pure fear-mongering of the past and toward a more thoughtful exploration of Satanism as a belief system that challenges traditional moral structures. There's also been a growing interest in real-world Satanism in documentaries and interviews, with figures like Lucian Greaves actively engaging with the media to clarify what he believes modern Satanism truly stands for: personal freedom, rebellion against authoritarianism, and the questioning of societal norms. One of the most interesting dynamics is the feedback loop between pop culture and real-world Satanism. While films, music, and television have often presented exaggerated or fictional versions of Satanism, these portrayals have had a real impact on how people engage with Satanism today. For example, many people first encounter Satanism through heavy metal or horror movies and are inspired to learn more. Some may adopt the rebellious attitude associated with Satanism, while others dive deeper into philosophical or theistic forms of the practice. Some satanic groups have also used their media presence to demystify Satanism, positioning it as a legitimate belief system rather than a symbol of fear. As a result, the satanic movement has grown in visibility and legitimacy, especially among younger generations who are increasingly disillusioned with mainstream religious institutions and attracted to the idea of questioning authority. From horror films to heavy metal, Satanism has had a lasting influence on pop culture, and vice versa. While pop culture has often presented a sensationalized version of Satanism, it's also opened the door for real-world understanding and exploration of this often misunderstood belief system. Today, as we see more subtlety and diverse portrayals of Satanism in film, music, and television, it's clear that Satanism's role in shaping and reflecting cultural values is far from over. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into Satanism's presence in pop culture. I hope this episode has given you some food for thought on how the worlds of entertainment and spirituality intersect. As always, stay curious, stay empowered, and I'll see you next time on Satanism Theory and Practice.